We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Reality Rants. I am Jason Bermas. We're going to be breaking down the SDGs, or Sustainability and Development Goals. And the fact that they are meant to encompass every single aspect of your life purposely, because this is about the regimentation of all human beings, which Roosevelt, to his credit, warned us about during the Hitler regime, because that was very, very much a part of the Nazi vision for the future. The will to do these things. And believe me, these people at the top that are directing this have the will, and they have their minions spouting and spitting their Bernaysian slogans of hate and lies on numerous levels. So I've got quite a few clips lined up, as we often do on the show. Kind of makes me laugh. You know, I read some of the comments. Obviously, I can't get to all of them. I may or may not, guys, take your questions and comments over at YouTube, bring them in at some point. But whenever I read something, for instance, about, like, I'm talking more than the people in the clips, yeah, it's a talk show. That's what this is. It's if I was just playing clips and I wasn't breaking them down, number one, you do have the copyright aspects, and I get it. People like sometimes to watch the clips in long form, and sometimes I let a minute or two go by. I'm going to try, especially on this first big clip that we're going to play about the technocracy and the importance of war and the perpetuation of war to keep the economy going. I may back off. I may play that entire clip without me saying a word. That one's kind of tough as well, because if you listened yesterday, I'm not sure if we even got to it on the free portion of the broadcast, but if you were listening on Podbean and you're a premium member, you'll know that we went to Howard Scott, the founder of Technocracy. Maybe it was at the tail end. And essentially, he not only talked about his friendship with Margaret Sanger, but he talked about poisoning the water supply, or covertly putting things in candy that would sterilize the population. And he actually complained a little bit that Russia had beat us to the punch on putting live V words into candy and distributing it amongst the general populace without their knowledge, without their consent. Okay, and that's what collectivism is. And all of this is bringing us into what? Collectivism. They want to crush the individual. And look, Howard Scott, dead at 1970, founder of Technocracy, Inc., is blunt and open and honest with what the plan is. He's telling you there's too many people. He's telling you there are a class of human beings that get to decide. And that's not the general population. Okay? It's not based on a principle of democracy or one person, one vote, or even a constitutional republic like we live in, or we were supposed to live in, based in democratic roots. Right? You vote for your representatives who then vote for laws and govern. And there's a separation of powers there, right? Between the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Or there used to be. There's not much of one now. Now, they are all being mobilized in a command and control matrix of power. No matter what nation state you live in, these people are coming for you. They are trying to reshape society. And that's what the SDGs really are. That's what ESG is, right? Environmental, societal, and governance. Encompasses everything. Encompasses everything. And they get to play the part of benevolent saviors as they lecture the rest of us. Disturbing stuff. You know, really, really, and I got a lot of clips of them just bragging about it. Just letting you know, like, if you have a business and your business doesn't do what we say, it won't be profitable, it'll go out of business. And, of course, these things will be selectively enforced to take out competition and what used to be the middle to upper middle class that would start a small business, maybe open up not a franchise, but 2, 3, 4 of those stores. They don't like that. They don't want competition from the little guy because the little guy is an individual. The little guy goes against this collectivist notion. You know, as I'm on the phone yesterday with a friend of mine, he's been on the show many a time, Pasta Jardula. And, you know, we were talking about China and the fact that there's a lot of fear-mongering going on via China and Taiwan, etc. And I said, yeah, that's true, because you have 1.2 billion people in that society, and we're seeing just through a very narrow lens what's going on there. And I've often said, you know, it's no longer Chinese-style censorship. The censorship is here. Just like Google wrote Dragonfly's algorithm, and that was the search engine over there that was heavily censored. We get the same thing here. We've demonstrated it how many times now in real time when we do a Google search and all of a sudden something of importance is completely hidden from the search. Completely hidden. Just doesn't even come up. Just, it's magic. We did it the other day with Bill Clinton discussing the Bohemian Grove. And no matter what context I discuss the Bohemian Grove or Bilderberg, it gets a contextual notice underneath the video at YouTube, Google's video platform, and, you know, another Trojan horse civilian system of narrative management. How many people have been unsubscribed to my channel? These people are protected from lawsuits because they're not supposed to be editors. They've gone well beyond that. They elevate certain posts and suppress others. It's not a free market. It's not a free market of ideas. That's Johnny nonsense. It's not real. Okay? It's not real. So we're going to get into that. We'll see, like I said, if we can get into some questions and comments. I haven't talked to you guys in a while. It's probably been over a week since we did that on the show. I do want to start with something fun. And I guess it really depends on, you know, what your definition of fun is. But in this cartoon verse of ridiculous on every end and every angle, you got to be able to laugh. And one of the things I really love to do is laugh. I like to smile. I like to laugh. I like to be content. I don't like to stress out over situations, right? Even when situations are tough, I try to find a solution and move on. Not let it occupy space and bring in all that negative energy. That being said, I have a hard time believing that John Fetterman won a legitimate election in Pennsylvania where there was a lot of hoo-ha and dibbity-doo in the prior election, in the 2020 election. Just a lot of wickety-wappity-boopity-bop. Don't want to say anything too specific. Apparently, Fox News is paying out $750 million in the Dominion suit. Might want to let that be a lesson to everybody, and not mainstream media in particular, or even alternative media. Everybody, watch what you say and the context in which you say it. You may just be on the internet now. You never know what's happening 1 year down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. Might not even be a lawsuit. They're criminalizing speech at a rapid rate. Okay? Just watch what you say, watch what you do. And even though I question that, whether you liked Mehmet Oz or not, he was a TV star. And once again, whether the authoritarian gods in mainstream media want to admit it or not, I hope there's a consensus of common sense out there that knows that the culture that we live in is one of celebritardiness. It's a celebritard culture. People emulate, and in many cases, whether they subconsciously are doing it or knowingly do it, worship celebrity and celebrities. Period. In many cases, because of the dopamine aspect, okay, and the regularity, the familiarity of a talk show host that you see every single day in, day out, smiling while the nice flicker rate's going on the TV, right? You relate to that person sometimes more than you do a friend or family member. That's reality. And that person lost to a guy who had recently had a stroke and couldn't speak. And then it's not just a congressional election either. Now, Congress would be bad enough. This is a Senate election. In a Senate election, you get 2 senators, no matter what. That's the even playing field of the states. Whereas, obviously, in Congress, depending on jurisdiction, population, that's how many representatives you have for those districts and areas. So it varies from state to state, obviously. But senators, too, pretty important. It goes into the House, which is the Congress, then the Senate, then the executive. That's how it works. And they put this guy in, and he can't talk at all. Not only were you going up against a celebrity, but you can't talk. Now, once again, you have to believe and be gaslit into thinking that the TDS, the Trump derangement syndrome, was so great, was so overwhelming that it carried over another 2 years into a state election. Then the guy, as soon as he's in, he still can't speak. There's really no footage of him actually doing his job, just sitting there with an interpreter. And he goes into the hospital supposedly for depression for 6+ weeks. I don't like any of that. But that's where it starts to get wild. From a distorted screenshot picture of a video that I was able to play and find here, and that was highly compressed, and it looked like it was actually distorted as in moved in, squished. I could have a banana face too. And all of a sudden, people were saying, the Fetterman double. The Fetterman double. We did, in real time, a Photoshop screenshot of Fetterman overlaid of the Fetterman double to show people that it was really a trick of the camera And that was absolutely him, and it was not a body double. Well, Fetterman's back. And again, I've talked about having a little sympathy for him recently, because when he was asked about running for president or seeking higher office by the mainstream Mockingbird media, he said, look, I'm more concerned with taking my kid out to the restaurant he wanted to go to for his birthday, because I missed that. That's a little more important. I'm with you, John. We are on the same page there. And this video right here makes me like the guy. It makes me more sympathetic to John Fetterman.
Hey everybody, it's me, Senator John Fetterman, and I just want you to know that I'm back and I'm feeling great, 100%. And during my time during the hospital, the Fringies really came up with a conspiracy that I have a body double. And I just want you to know that is just crazy. That's not true. And dude, John, what event am I supposed to be doing this afternoon? Dude, really?
I gotta stop it right there. I don't want the copyright strike from the just the two of us. You and I, right? I love Bill Withers, by the way. Bill Withers, great. Now, when I watched this, after the initial smile, right? What did I really think? Well, if you go back to it in the very beginning, you can kind of see him right there looking off camera. You see that? He's looking off to the side if you're watching on the web. Well, obviously he's reading off a script. But the fact that he was able to get, I think, a full 12 seconds before they had to do a cut, and there was a possible stutter there, right? I wondered how many times did it take him to get that take? Because he's clearly still not well, right? But at least that's funny. And I hope there are people out there with a sense of humor. Because I like to laugh. That bravo, sir. Way to play into that one. I actually did enjoy that one. Just because, look, we are talking politics. It is of a serious nature. But when the counter argument is as ludicrous as it was, that's warranted. That's completely 100% warranted. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, before we get to the SDG stuff, before we get to your questions and comments on the inside, we're also going to play an extended watch along on the premium portion of the broadcast with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., obviously running for president, on his speech about Fauci and, drills like Crimson Contagion and Event 201 and Lockstep and things that we probably can't get away with talking about on this channel still to this day. But I want to show you that the people at the top, or the people that are behind this ideology of command and control, of an AI rule, of the regimentation of all human beings, and eventually the genetic modification on a multitude of levels of what it is to be human, if you can even call us that. So they want to go to their evolutionary scale, and they want to take Homo sapien and make Homo superior. You get it? But in their image, not, and that's kind of the irony out there. Obviously Christians believe that God made us in his image. Well, they're inverting that, just like so many things are inverted. And once again, this is the guy yesterday who, if you didn't see it, you didn't hear it, I would encourage you to at least go back and, go listen to the Podbean. Maybe that's really one of the ones the producers should cut that clip out of the premium. I think that is an important, that would be a good one for Twitter. It probably ends up being about a 10-minute segment. Okay, again, about poisoning the water supply, okay, so they can sterilize people. And what does Unzipped Genes start out with? It starts out with our Supreme Court and jurisprudential luminary Oliver Wendell Holmes saying, the principle that sustains compulsory compulsory boople-doople, use the V word, is broad enough to cover the fallopian tubes. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. So in other words, sterilizing the feeble-minded. It's right here in Buck versus Bell that the eugenic sterilization of the feeble-minded was constitutional. It's right there. It's right there. It's the forward of this thing. It's this talking about transgenics. They call it transgenics. Let me repeat that. Transgenics. Transhumanism. Transgender is on the road to that. So in this clip, I think it's a good companion piece to something like Why We Fight. Why We Fight, great documentary. I can't believe that thing is probably, it's probably over 15 years old and closer to 20 years old. And explains the military-industrial complex and this need for constant conflict. But in this, the same guy that's calling for, sterilization of the population through unknowing means, right, without your consent, is also talking about how we need the war machine. Without the war machine, the U.S. economy collapses. It's a pretty, bleak view of society and the world and reality. I don't believe that. I think, again, that is an inversion that somehow we have to have war and death and horrific things occur to have stability in our country. I think it's a complete misnomer. And these are the same people, though, that are going to tell you they have solutions to all your problems. And they've been telling you that they have solutions to all your problems. Not your problems, but everybody's problems. We're going to solve world hunger and homelessness. We're going to stamp out crime. We're going to have more equitable solutions. SDGs. And we're going to get to those. But first, I'm going to play this rather long clip. I'm going to try to sit back. I'm going to try to let this 6+ minute clip play on its own. All right? And it's got some B-roll in the background or whatever of this guy's place, Technocracy, Inc. But Howard Scott, dead by 1970, talking about the war machine and its necessity. Here we go.
We'll say this is wasted horsepower or pleasure horsepower.
Yeah, but if you double the percentage in prime movers in industry, you'll have an addition of around 16 million to the present employment. You aren't going to operate. Now, it's the same attitude as we have towards peace. I know many of these Quakers and others that are insane, and for instance, there's a pamphlet done on nuclear devices by SANE that's pretty excellent, technical. But therefore, complete disarmament, the complete destruction of all nuclear devices, all bombers, planes, missiles, bases, everything else. And they want peace. Well, they say, are you in favor of peace? We said yes. Oh, well, then they're all interested. We say we like your program, but we are for it on an entirely different basis than we think you're for it. What do you mean? If you're for disarmament, complete disarmament against nuclear warfare, well then you should be with it. Well, that's very interesting. Do you realize the consequences that if you got this peace that you're advocating, it would mean the total elimination from the budget of the United States of your war material and all dependent material? Yeah. We'll take the United States now and leave the rest of it out. And it would be an addition of somewhere between 14 and 16 million to your existing unemployed. That's why we're for your program. Are you prepared to face the consequences? Oh, no. Oh, you want this system, and you want peace, and have this system the way it is? Well, you're crazier than hell. No, we're hard-boiled realists. We'll back it up with facts and figures. Mm-hmm. And we know what we're talking about. And nobody ever gives us a battle, do they? Any place. Universities, any Canada, United States, no.
Do you feel then that there is no possible way of gradually dismantling the war machine?
Well, what?
Without ruining the economy?
When you get into a process of gradualism, sir, will the process of gradualism equal an acceleration, the technological acceleration, which is also accelerating? May I ask you that?
Well, you're way over my head now.
Well, wait a minute. This technological process, any philosophic, moral, or subjective statement that is made today by anyone,
yeah,
is invalidated and rendered obsolescent and stupid by the next 15 minutes of technological acceleration. Completely out in the void.
Yes. So that technologically, there is no question but what the thing has to go on exactly as it is going on now, or primarily as it is.
No. But the people who are advocating peace are not prepared. They want the same status quo as you have now, economic status quo.
Yeah.
Well, but you won't have it.
No, you certainly won't.
And you won't have it if you go on producing the war equipment either.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you were to suddenly abolish all the missiles, nuclear devices, planes, bases and everything around the world and destroy all the conventional arms, this country couldn't run. This country is a warfare state.
Yes, indeed.
With certain welfare emoluments dispensed and very much filtered. Yeah? In fact, almost completely filtered out before it reaches the lower 50, 60 million.
And you feel technologically this is a condition which is bound to be maintained, or if it is not maintained, it would mean economic ruin?
You mean the war thing?
The war production, the war economy that we have.
Well, what are they going to substitute? See, we're losing jobs at the rate of about 35,000 a week from technological advancement.
Yeah, 35,000 a week.
Every damn week in the year. Huh? Besides that, you've got your youth coming out of high school. You have 1,300,000 who graduated last year that the Department of Labor, Goldberg, and President Kennedy admit and publicly claim have never been employed.
Yeah.
They are not on the unemployed list now, understand. They've never had a job, so
they just never had a job, yeah.
Yeah, therefore they're not employed.
Yes.
But they've never had a job. You've got 1,700,000 to 1,800,000. There's only a few days left in June, and they'll be here. Now, we've been talking about technological processes, and we've devised a lot of ourselves, and we've gotten a lot of help from almost anybody that ever designed any piece of equipment or process, whether they agreed with us or not. If they did much of it, they came to the same conclusions as we did.
Let's break it down. They came to the same conclusions we did, and I think that whole thing is based on a misnomer. First of all, it's an all or nothing argument, right? That's not real. Now, no one is saying that you can disarm the world because, look, there are bad people, and people lie. and institutions like the military are run by people. That's one of the huge things out there that I don't think people get. I'm not one of these guys that says he has all the answers. But I very much believe that it is people driving this. Now, whether or not there's some kind of a spiritual or what people would refer to as a supernatural underlying cause to all that, I can't prove or disprove at all. Okay, I can tell you that I find it extremely bizarre that it seems like the people at the top have had this generational, nepotistic style of indoctrinating theirs and those around them in this occult fashion. And the occult really just means hidden knowledge, but then you look at the symbolistic and ritualistic aspect of some of the things that we publicly know about via the Bohemian Grove and others. And that takes me back because we're talking about technology. Nuclear power, nuclear weapons were actually referenced in that video. And where does that come out of? The Bohemian Grove. And every time you scratch some kind of large technological breakthrough that is presented to the public, because I'm sure there are a lot of technological breakthroughs the military-industrial complex has done that are not shared with the public. But whenever it is shared with the public, whether it be nuclear in nature or, say, the Large Hadron Collider, there's a weird occultic aspect to it. Very dark. Very dark. So I think that that's a misnomer. I think that obviously on just about every level, just in case, the world's a big place, you need a military. You don't have to disband all the bases, etc. But you don't constantly need to be drone bombing and smart bombing and enslaving people. But that's what you need for the technocracy. See, that's why he likes it. Because it's enabled things like the war of terror, where you can go into Afghanistan, you can do iris scans of everybody, and then that can be expanded later on into the Blockchain People World Economic Forum, IMF program, where they're already running on a digital currency based in the blockchain, based in global governance. That's why, in reality, this guy says we need to keep perpetuating the war machine. You know, he's talking about this during the Kennedy era. Remember, he's dead by 1970. And obviously, technology at that point really didn't automate a ton of people out. People ended up working in the factories with the machines. Some jobs were automated out. Other jobs were created. Now, the question is, with algorithmic artificial intelligence in which creativity is being crushed and one narrative is being pushed, now do the actual creatives get pushed out, right? Along with people that have already been automated out. He also mentioned the welfare state as part of it. Well, the welfare state and the war state, they have to coincide. Because when people are productive, they're happier. And when people are productive, society is producing. Whether that's products or services. And let me argue this as well. Earlier before the video, I alluded to the fact that we've often been promised imagination land things, such as we are going to solve world hunger. Well, you actually solve world hunger and you build an infrastructure for people of electricity and clean water, right? So, something, things like the Peace Corps and others, to their credit, have done in a small regard. World's a big place. You'd have more people. This idea that somehow the population would stabilize itself, if you were not poisoning those people and they were being prosperous and they could eat, all those people that are still in the third world nations, some have been brought up to second, even first world status. That's also real, largely in part to technology, by the way. But if there was a concerted effort there via our military, actually helping build up those types of infrastructure, right, without this overarching command and control system led by the United Nations, right, and as I said, the IMF earlier, because that's what it really is. It's a globalist ideal set, and that's kind of like the mode in which they're doing it. That's just one of the organizations that are a driving force behind it. They don't have an original idea in their head. They're being dictated to by what some would call elites. I call the predator class. That's the real deal. So they promote this stuff. It gets in there. We could have a military that not only built the infrastructure, but here at home, we produce MREs, storable food. That's just the start, right? We could be talking about heirloom seeds around the world. If we wanted to stomp out world hunger and do all those good things that they talked about, that would be an easy way, and be embraced, by the way, by the indigenous people. We're not going around in units and everybody's a spy and everybody feels threatened. We're letting people do their own thing. But that's never been the goal. Although that's the type of thing that's portrayed by the United Nations in a place like Syria with the white helmets. Again, inverting reality. It's an inversion. Okay? So, with that being said, I think that's a false argument, but it shows you the mindset of the cult of doom, right? The prophets of doom that constantly say things like the world is going to end. Now, the war machine is completely unaccountable, by the way, of their carbon output. They don't have to report anything. Their carbon emissions. No one knows what the military's carbon emissions are, especially globally, since their weapons testing, in large part, guys, guess what? It's classified. Takes place offshore. I mean, also within the United States, also around the world. But often, weapons tests are far away from any prying eyes. Just want to put that out there. Okay? So that's completely unaccountable. That shows what a farce this is on its face. We have to come up with that, but that's not even talked about. And these same people are going to push the sustainability and development agenda. So let's start with this little groveler, and I want to show just really quickly. There's 17 of these things, 17 SDGs, and even that has a dark root in symbolism, right? For those that are not aware, TruthStream Media did a great documentary called "The King of the World," where they show you at the 50th World Economic Forum, they actually crown Prince Charles in the SDGs that went above his head. And although there's only 17 of them, they split one down the middle in the center, right? And developed it into two at the top so they could get their 666 margin. You think that's by accident? And they're like showing the graphic designer and how hip and cool it is. This one, we're not going to stay silent for 6 minutes. Let's start kicking off these sustainability videos right now.
There was a much greater effort in the design of the Sustainable Development Goals to identify targets or pieces of these goals that spoke to each other. So what you see here in this fairly complicated mosaic are the 17 goals, and what you see in the colors is the goals that speak to, the targets that speak to whether they're environmental, economic, or social in nature.
Social in nature. I'm a non-threatening, soft-speaking guy that loves you. And this is techno-fascism. This is the technopoly, not a technocracy, unless you're using the term as a bureaucracy. But really, since you not only have the private sector working on a lot of the technologies that we're now seeing, but in partnership with the Defense Department, who has already developed some of these technologies and is now getting ready to scale them up and release them to the public. They have to have control over that. Like, because if there is cheap or even free energy out there, do you think they want to give that to the people? That you think they want to give them something that is a basic necessity that you have to pay a bill for every single month, and not just one in most cases? You know how many bills I get? I think I got Mid-American Energy. I got Bettendorf Municipality. Okay, I've got my water bill on top of that. Just like, okay, well, what's next? Plenty. Oh, you got a gas whatever. You got a gas bill. Now, if you don't need any of those things, that's a big deal to a lot of people. And especially when they're starting to charge more and more for energy. And they have these smart meters. And they're telling you, okay, first of all, think about it, SDG. So, societally, they're telling you human beings are bad. You need to do more to do less. You need to use less by doing more. Again, inversion of truth. And then, environmentally, you're doing the right thing. But we're going to regulate it with the government, ESG. You get it? Let's continue on with Spanktangle here.
And so what this kind of little color kind of mosaic demonstrates is that you look at any of the goals, and I know it's hard to read, but if you take energy or water, you see that the targets under that goal actually speak to social dimensions of development, environmental dimensions of development, economic dimensions of development, much, much more explicitly than was the case in the Millennium Development Goals. So there's a much more concerted effort to develop a much more integrated approach to how these goals and targets actually play out. Doesn't mean there can't be quite a bit more improvement, but there was a strong effort to try to make that happen.
In other words, they are mobilizing to try to encompass everything you do into these goals so there can be some kind of global regulation via treaty that individual governments sign onto. In fact, yesterday, we played one of these small island nations that was being praised by the propagandists, by the high priests of this, because, they're already impacted by climate change. Oh my goodness, there are hurricanes on an island nation. Really? Wow, hurricanes on an island nation. Man-made climate change. And actually, I think they actually use the term global warming, which is, that's so taboo. So let's see. We're going to play the rest of this clip, or maybe we'll even cut. We are going to play the whole clip. But I do want to do some questions and comments with you guys. So when we hit, 50 at the latest in the next 7 minutes, we're going to scroll through some questions and comments. So get them in. Maybe we'll go backwards so we can do the newest ones first, the most relevant.
And I'd say the fourth thing, so more transformative, more comprehensive, more integrated. And the fourth characteristic of the Sustainable Development Goals that I think is worth mentioning is that they're, and perhaps the thing that is most profound is this idea of universality. Whereas the Millennium Development Goals were largely about how the rich world can pay for things to improve the condition in the developing world.
See, this again, back in the day, they were selling it to you as the United States is benevolent. We're going to help the developing world. We're going to do all these great things. Look what we did in South America. Okay, look what we did in the Middle East. It's not just us. It's global superpowers. But again, now they're trying to get this universality. And if you read the Leave No One Behind, leave no one behind right there. Leave no one behind. What does it say? Together as one, one for zero. Remember when you were alone together to stop the spread and bend the curve? I'm saying bend the curve. That's in Beyond the Reset. It was flatten the curve. Remember that? Together is one. One for zero. There's no such thing as net zero carbon emissions because carbon is we are carbon-based beings. Okay, and carbon dioxide is a life force on the planet. Actions by all, benefiting all. Actions by the North, benefiting the South. Actions by the South, supported by the North. It's applicable for all. Global norm. This is the new normal. It's universality as a shared humanity and as a shared destiny. This is the techno-fascist takeover, the usurping of individual rights, period. Globally, this is what they want.
There has been a real seismic shift in moving towards an agenda that would speak to all countries. And so this is a little schematic that we came up with, where if you look at the left, the Millennium Development Goals were basically actions that the developing countries would take that would be paid for, supported by the developed world, largely through aid. From there, we are moving towards a recognition that we want an agenda that is universal, so that not only speaks to poverty or deprivation in the developing world, but poverty or deprivation around all countries. So that's that second box about this concept of leaving no one behind. But beyond that, it's also another concept that's been embedded into this called kind of policy coherence for development. And what this concept is trying to say is that it also matters what policies one country has that may support or undercut efforts of another country to tackle poverty. So, for example, it's not just aid that the rich world may give. If they have trade policy that in some way hinders the ability of agricultural development in certain countries, that is a problem.
So no free competition. I mean, that's what he's saying right there. No competition within nation states. If it hinders another country, that's not going to be allowed. I mean, think about this. Everything he's talking about is control over vital resources, whether it be energy or food, right? Energy or food, and how they will decide. But he says it very gently. Now, he's not wearing, a pink sweater or a purple sweater like Bill Gates, or if you watch the second hour replay that I put out yesterday, Alex Karp, they're not wearing that, right? The non-threatening thing. But this tie's a little beige. He's skinny. He's got glasses on. He's an academic. He wants to save the world universally.
So that we need to look at an agenda that actually gets greater coherence in trade policy, in support for R&D, in migration policy, in financial system stability, all of these things that could have a spillover effect that could undercut development efforts in other countries. So that coherence in policies is a part of this agenda. And finally, it's also about collective action.
Coherence in policies across the board collectively. This is why I talk about collectivism. And I don't say socialism, communism, collectivism. That's collectivism masked as globalism. But the two shall merge in their divine vision of a new world order.
Recognizing that the world now is facing not just issues that pertain to specific countries. There are bigger problems, take climate change, was a collective action problem that there needs to be mobilized a global response.
The mobilization of a global response outside of nation states and what they want to do for climate change. It's all here. They just come out and say it, but they say it in a manner that's non-threatening. And again, it's something we must do. We must make it universal.
So when we talk about a universal agenda, which is what this agenda aspires to achieve.
Agenda. Said agenda 5 times.
It is a quite a rich mix of different things that have been included that actually make it very exciting if it can be realized.
I mean, there's the Smirkles, and just like the technocratic guy right there, Howard Scott and the other dude are sitting there laughing while they're talking about the perpetual war machine. It's funny if we can get them through. All right, let's see what we got for questions and comments. There we go. We're going to go up and down. Let's see. We will make everyone poor in the name of equity. A Logan's Run world is the end goal. No, it's worse than that. A post-human future. That's not I wish a Logan's Run world was just the end goal. I don't wish that either. I want a free humanity that embraces technology to empower us. I hope AI, when they let it loose, see the elites as a threat, not the people. I don't think there is a thing like artificial intelligence in the manner that they're selling you, even what the Muskernuts is selling you on Tucker last night, because there was an extensive conversation on that. I think it's again, command control mechanism of those that write the algorithm. I don't think it's going to do what you think it's going to do. I am more under the mindset that it's going to be like Westworld and a Riobim or something like that. I think that was what it's called. A little scheme they came up with. Yeah, they were using the term scheme yesterday. Come on, Jason. What's a little brain chip for the greater good? No mas. And the thing is that they wanted to go beyond brain chips, as Kurzweil tells you, and into small bio-nanotech that will shut off your actual nervous system and let you embrace a meta-reality somewhere else and experience something completely different. Look at the left. There it is. I don't know what that is. End of American exceptionalism. Well, it's by design. Okay, it's not. It was never really American exceptionalism. You know, this has been a vehicle, a tool, if you will, of an agenda where we were able to mask what we were doing militarily on behalf of this new world order, whether it be in South America or the Middle East eventually, in a flag, in the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Post-World War II, things went off the rails. And that's another reason the technocratic guy likes war so much, because that's where authoritarianism comes in. That's where power is at its greatest and most concentrated. When those type of things are going on, people suspend their rights and freedoms. They take ration tickets, right? The propaganda is heavy and deep. Rosie the Riveter, all that. Beware the buzzwords. Slogans help with brainwashing. That is correct. Business as usual for the predator ruling class, and new normal for the zeros. Belief in God F's up their illusion every single time. Yes, we are the carbon they want to get to zero. We will be sliding in Mexico soon enough. They aren't playing nice with the NWL. That's a good. I don't know about that. You know, like if you don't think the cartels are basically run by intelligence, and our intelligence in particular. I mean, come on. Who really got in trouble during Iran-Contra? Iran-Contra. There's Black Ops exists, and it's not a Call of Duty game. Okay? That's, you know, it's not what it is. Let's see. We got a fire hazard yesterday. Shouldn't we be liberating Latin America? Yeah, we're big liberators. Ty Rich offer the developing world technology, etc., in exchange for their freedom. It's a fairly simple setup. Wait, now he's yelling? Who was yelling? Let's see. Yeah, make sure to click the comments. By the way, almost 300 people watching. Can we get 150 before we go? And by the way, I haven't plugged one time. If you think about it, guys, you listen to an hour of talk radio or watch a show that has the commercials. your hours down to 40 minutes. You know, this is straight through. I usually start 30 to 60 seconds early to get the intro in there, which is a couple minutes. Other than that, we're going. We're full throttle information here. So if you do want to come over, I got a ton of clips left, including we got to get to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. speech because we can't do that here. And right now, this is the guy I'm behind. Sorry if that hurts people's feelings, but he's the one talking about DARPA, DARPA, DARPA when no one else is talking about DARPA, 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 among a multitude of other things. We got plenty more sustainability to get to, a little social credit score fun, and all that goodness. But it's going to be at redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Join today for $1 for the first week. Cancel if you don't like it. $10 a month, or lock it in for a year. $100, save 20. May 1st, bigger lineup, more people coming on. I know they just brought yet another person on. It's in my Twitter feed. So Red Voice Media, grow with us and help support this broadcast, and let them know that Jason Bermas sent you. All right, let's take some more questions and comments as we do this. And again, we'll be going over there at the top of the hour. Let's see. Opt out. They literally put a meter that reads opted out. Shame on me. I live in Minnesota. This winter, my average combined heating and electric bills were $500 a month. It is nuts. Think about Europe. Yeah, the 500's a lot. You ain't lying, sister. You ain't lying. Maybe the kid was escaping. Look who our POTUS is. Dun dun. Let's see. Do more by doing less. Let's see. Secret to the universe is 369, Tesla said. I'm not aware of that. I haven't done deep dives into Tesla. Here and there, I'll be doing research and it comes up. And the problem with that is there are a lot of interpretations of Tesla. There's a lot of Johnny nonsense out there with Tesla. I like source documents. The more source documents there, the better. And I think that helps give a much better understanding of the kind of technologies that not only he was working on, but may have perfected, right? Let's see. Watching local news, a toddler squeezed through the White House gates and guards grabbed him, carried him out like an animal. I haven't seen this, so that's what you were talking about. Haven't seen it. Let's see. Yeah, did Tesla discover free energy? He may have. He was an open circuit, not a closed circuit, guys. Turtleneck Tyrant. Yes, Turtleneck Tyrant. Let's see. He wants what's best for us. Sure he does. Where's my tap out shirt? I don't know, Toothless, but I mean we got the Flaming Affliction hoodie. It's a light hoodie. That's why. I mean these are about as paper thin as it gets. It's almost like a throw over, if you will. Weapons testing and biohazard work best done away from prying eyes. Also correct. That is absolutely what's happening. Fiat is a confidence game, better yet, a pyramid scheme. It's a legal pyramid scheme, just like the stock market is really legal gambling. And it's almost beyond legal gambling. It's legal gambling with outward cheating that's non-prosecutable. Right? Like, 'cause if you're a casino, usually you're going to work something out with local authorities. There's going to be some skimming, but you never know. There could be a federal investigation. You don't pay those guys off, right? They're not part of the team. In the United States system and what they do, COVID 1984 rolls around. They just shut down the stock market. Whoopsie. Oopsie. That's it. That's not really the same thing, right? Casinos only close, right, when things like COVID 1984 happen. Now, they'll kick you out if you're winning too much. They'll say, don't come here anymore, for sure. You do a little bit of card count, you might get a little something else illegal going on in the back room, but hey, that's here nor there. Okay. That's going to be the signal that we are going over to the paid portion of the broadcast. Remember, I'm a documentary filmmaker, All my films are free. They're at a multitude of locations, including redvoicemedia.com. All the links are down below for supporting the broadcast and checking stuff out. We put even an extra up over at Rockfin of me hosting Making Sense of the Madness and discussing Miriam Hanane and Simon Esler's film with them. Really fun show. So ton of material out there. Almost too much Jason Bermas out there at this point. So please check that out. And remember, you can listen free right now. You want to keep listening to the broadcast. You don't want to come over to Premium. Okay, I understand. It's over at Podbean. Listen to the whole thing in the background for free right now. And remember, every day we also release Premium from 2 weeks ago. You can check that out at redvoicemedia.com as well. So one at a time, we're going to